you can watch someone get their ass beat and learn a little bit from it. But if you get you actually get your ass beat, then you can learn a lot from it. Like that's some experience. If you actually get some
if I was playing right now,
it's like you could eat a pepper, watch someone eat a pepper, and you could learn that it could be painful. Or
I am never eating. What are those called?
Hungry?
What are those?
Hungry?
It's a pepper X.
Away from me. Hello and welcome back to The Dive, driven by Kia, Season 9, Episode number 19. No, you don't have it on fast forward.
Kobe's just talking fast.
Wow, crazy magic. We actually just came off of casting the finals. We're still riding the high of the back door, the double teleport. But I think first things first, we got to pay off our debts here, our bet. We all lost.
So we're gonna lose.
We're just gonna one-shot these peppers.
The bet was we had to choose both the winner and the team out of the other teams out of FlyQuest C9, not them, the team that would go the furthest. So I had FlyQuest and TL, but TL lost Shopify. Shopify, none of us picked. So Shopify already made us lose the bet before we even got to the finals. TL did screw me. And so now we're gonna one-shot a pepper, and they're telling us it's not that bad. So hopefully it's not that bad.
Sometimes
Videos is telling us he's gonna puke. So there's these two things are
last time I was
contradicting.
Korean had a spicy pepper.
Yeah,
it didn't go so well.
Use the shields. All right, we're going in.
We're one-shotting the whole thing. You have to eat the whole thing.
All right, I'll go.
Okay.
What kind is it? Oh, it's hot! What do you mean that's not bad? That's hella hot. No, milk.
Oh, that is hot.
That's not hot. What do you mean? That's so hot.
You know what?
The seeds and stuff?
I'm okay. My mouth is burning, but I think I'm okay.
I'm not okay.
Oh wait, give it a second. Maybe I'm not.
I don't like it.
Oh, now it's getting deep
Why
in
we
my
have to eat the
throat.
whole thing, man? Why'd you say that?
Yeah, that was a bad idea.
Oh, that is hot. Fuck.
I think we both cursed very quickly. No, this is so bad.
really
Who
bad.
said it wasn't gonna be that bad? Well, we actually can't even keep doing the episode. Your tongue not on fire?
Yeah, I'm working through it. I'm trying to not go for the
We need a
milk.
new bet next time.
Oh, that shit is Oh, the worst part is that it's like
They're laughing at us, by the way.
It's
They're turning
right
them
here.
around. I can't even. I have to keep my tongue in the milk.
Why did we agree to do the whole thing?
His dumb ass. It's actually so painful.
Get back on camera. They need to enjoy your pain. Oh, yeah. The worst part for me
That is
is
the hottest thing I've ever eaten.
it's right here. It's my whole throat. Oh God. Yeah, all of us losing is tough because now none of us can continue the episode.
Ooh. That's bad.
Yeah, tough. All right. Well, we're making a lot of progress here.
Yeah.
God damn. All right, well, we just came out with the finals. Absolute 5-game banger. Kobe is panting. That was a crazy end to the finals. Oh, God, that hurts. FlyQuest do win. Game 5. Backdoor, double TP. Victor flashing over the base gates. The more I talk, the more it hurts.
Yeah.
I think I'm giving air to it. It's like a fire.
I was saying, I literally can't fucking talk.
Yeah, you guys lied for sure. This is actually quite hot. Our producers set us up.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
I actually like spicy food too. Nothing
I don't.
crazy, but I like spicy food.
My tongue hurts.
This is hot. Is this more painful or is the cold plunge more painful?
Yes.
All right, there you go. Apparently the worst bet we've ever lost. Oh,
It's worse than the lemons.
it was way worse than lemons. Lemons were gross. This is painful. That's tough. All right, well, yeah, FlyQuest won. They're going to MSI. Cloud9, unfortunately, is not. Honestly, really close series. I do think Cloud9 definitely could have had it. I was seeing already a lot of people blaming Blabber, but I feel like Blabber actually played pretty well overall. There was definitely a bit of overchasing with the Jarvan. Lost some 50-50s on some of the objectives and stuff, but like I didn't feel like it was fair to just place blame all in one place or anything at all. Because I thought overall Blabber was still playing pretty well. And I felt like mostly the mistakes Cloud9 made were kind of like as a team, Yeah. Tough. It's just me.
At least they didn't have to eat peppers, bro. It is actually just you. Even talking for like 10 seconds, it burns so much more.
I know. I'm the one talking. I'm trying to keep it going, you know?
What if the losing team has to eat peppers? I feel like they would play way harder.
That's true. They would. They'd be locked in.
If they knew what this was like, for sure.
Oh, you guys,
We actually
you guys
might
are
have to
crushing
pause.
that milk. Oh my God.
We might have to pause the episode.
Oh man.
Yeah, if I'm, it only feels okay when I'm currently drinking the milk. Afterwards, it's just goes terrible.
Well,
Yeah, Azale, you sold this one.
all right. Well, I'm
Got
just
it.
gonna keep going. I mean, I'm struggling here too. Yeah, no, it was a really good series. A lot of fun to cast. It was cool that Freak was back to cast a game. That was absolute nostalgia trip. I was happy to have him back here. That was a lot of fun, and yeah, I mean, honestly, it felt like after game one, I was, you know, it was pretty FlyQuest favored game one. I thought Inspired was really smurfing him and Whippo. Got a lot done on the top side. Then game two came back, and it was like Blabber is getting a lot done with Thanatos, and Thanatos on the Ambessa was super smurfing. Zven had a really good Ezreal game. Cloud9 was looking really good. They win game three as well. And honestly, in game four, I felt like Cloud9 was going to close it out. Like, it hit a certain point where Blippo had a couple fights in a row where he kind of just like ran it. Like, he went way too far in. Like, after the Otacon fight where they had one priority round Otacon, and he like overchased and they all died and stuff. And then the same thing happened in the next Dragon where Masu wasn't there yet.
His Cho'Gath game?
Yeah, his Cho'Gath game. I thought, okay, Cloud9 actually has this. And then in the final fight at Dragon, it's basically Inspired finding this engage onto Loki. He goes in, Masu like valks into the pit. They kill off Loki right off the bat. And then everyone from Cloud9 is trying to pile in and save them. And Quad hits what, a 3-man seismic shove, a 4-man seismic shove, something like that. And completely saves the game. Masu gets a quadra kill. They just end off of that. If I was Bubba, I would have been like thanking my lucky stars because his teammates bailed him out so hard. I felt like I was thinking the game was going to end, the series was going to end just like that, and that Bubba would be getting flamed for that final game. But the way that FlyQuest won in game 5 was so crazy to me because I felt like, and you guys can jump in any time, I'm just trying to buy you time because you guys are in pain. Yeah. I felt like no other team in our league, and probably no other team in the West, I would say, could have won that game with that comp in the position that they were in. You're playing Elise, Kha'Zix, full AP Gragas with like 950 or 1,000 AP by the end of the game, no Zhonya's. Like, such a hard comp to play out, and it's nearly 50 minutes into the game against Cassante, Renata. Like, though it was so hard, I felt like, to play out that game, and they were finding such good angles where Inspired is like ulting in and chunking Vulcan low, and then being able to hop out and survive. And like
he's struggling harder than me.
Like, I thought that last game was crazy hard to win with their comp. And even when they were, you know, getting like gold leads and stuff, I was still kind of thinking, honestly, eventually Cloud9 is going to get a good front to back fight and they're just going to win. Yeah. So I thought it was really insane. I do think that they're really deserving of the championship. And it's just kind of cool that we got to have these two teams that were by far our best two teams, all split long, battling it out. It's like they're 1 and 2 in positioning phase. They play each other for the tiebreaker. They both win their groups. They play each other for, you know, first seed. Then they play an upper bracket. It goes 5 games. They play in grand finals. It goes 5 games. Like, it can't really get more even than that.
Yeah.
And even the year-long record going into the series was 6-5. So now I guess it's, you know, 9-7 or whatever in FlyQuest's favor. So incredibly, incredibly close. I really wish, honestly, we were sending both of them. I'm really sad that we don't get to play against the LTA South, for both the seeds, because I definitely think there's no question in my mind that FlyQuest obviously deserves to go, but also that C9 could beat, you know, Furia and be able to go as well, because I think both these teams could do really well. So I'm really sad about that, but yeah, it was an amazing series. I loved it. Vibe was really good. Really, really exciting games.
Yeah, it feels like this feels like one of those natural rivalries between these two teams because they've both been so good, you know, at this point going on years, and their games are so close that, I don't know, over the years we've had some rivalries, some feel a little bit more forced than others, but with these two teams, like going to a 5-game series where it's actually super back and forth, all the games were close. Yeah, I definitely think it's going to leave both these teams hungry next time they meet. And
10 out of 10 games, right? Like,
yeah. Absolutely.
I thought Zven actually gave a really good interview afterwards too.
Yeah.
giving an interview after you lose a series like that, you know, in the 5th game, and you get backdoored to end it as well. But you know, he's a veteran, and he had a
Respect to him.
Huge respect.
I didn't see it. I was on the way here. What happened?
Well, he just handled it really well. Obviously, you know, the loss really hurt them, but he was talking about, you know, back in the locker room, talking to the rest of the guys and some of the younger guys. And Zven himself said that he just reminded them, you know, him as a veteran, he's like, yeah, I got here. You don't get to winning 7 championships without losing a bunch on the way. And obviously, you know, he is one that has had all of that experience all the way up to the international stage and had success on the international stage as well. And so it seems like, I don't know, it just he was very articulate about it, and seemed like he was able to lend that to you know, some of the other teammates. I assume like Thanatos and Loki that are the
least experienced,
the younger ones. To be able to keep it focused on the next time. And that was the key too. He ended the interview saying, like, you know, talking to them, he was like, well, remember this feeling, because we need to make sure this never happens again. And looking at Split 3.
I also really like that he was just talking a lot about, you know, it's like the reality is it's really hard because people are obviously going to be focused on like a couple key moments, but there's so many things he was thinking about, right? He's talking about, okay, of course we could have won Game 4 if that fight didn't go bad. We could have handled, you know, the elder call in Game 5 differently and left someone back. And he's saying, you know, I'm thinking back to like moments in, you know, in Game 1 or Game 2 or this or that where like I could have played it differently and it could have had a big knock-on effect for the series. And there's all of these things that you have to, you know, you think about and learn from. And obviously it is really, really tough to be able to kind of deal with that in the moment. It's like, unless you have competed in something that you really have given your absolute all to, I think it's hard to understand like how much it sticks with you. Like it sounds probably comical to say, but like I have specific events from like 15 years ago where I remember like an exact round in a match where I'm like, we did this thing wrong, and it still bugs me when I think about it, right? Or we could have gone further, we could have won this tournament. And so that's part of being a competitor. It's like you get these incredibly high highs when you win. And when you lose, especially when you lose something this close, where you know there's probably 10 different decision points where you could have changed something, you could have won, it's like, it's going to hurt, and it's going to hurt a lot.
Yeah, I think this kind of loss, I mean, it wasn't a full reverse sweep, but it's still the same idea of like, you pretty much had it. I think that feels so much worse, especially because it's the finals. You know, you're right there. You're about to go to MSI. They're up 2-1 with the 4th game looking really good for them, and then... You know, it slips out of their hands, and then, you know, super close Game 5, where again it felt like they were kind of in a winning position. Like you were saying, I think Game 5 was actually pretty interesting to see. I think that was a game where C9 was probably feeling more nerves than normal. I think it's probably a mixture of nerves plus they're not playing a super standard team comp. You know, anytime you get Game 5 fearless, you start having that's when like the weird stuff starts happening.
Yeah,
and so. They're up against this comp where when I was watching it the whole time, I was saying like, okay, FlyQuest has no front line whatsoever. It's usually really hard to win games where you don't have a front line. But I think FlyQuest was playing it really well with like Gragas and Kha'Zix kind of standing on different flanks. They were just like, they were basically playing like a poke comp. They were just shooting you with stuff and then trying to knock hard engaged on. And then while C9 did have some engage options, it wasn't, you know, like Ornn or Nautilus or like these really, really hard to avoid engages. It was like Jarvan, Cassante, Renata ult. And then I think Hui as well, he was kind of struggling to get things done in team fights that last game. And like Loki played it fine, but I think it was just kind of the champion's limitations. It's pretty hard when they outrange you his way because like, you know, you can shoot your QW or whatever at them. You can like none of your E's are really going to hit anybody. And so it's going to be hard to land an ult or anything, but yeah, I feel like what C9 did at the end, you know, as their Nexus turrets were falling, where they did like, you know, Jarvan flashes in on a Caitlyn, they have like Kalista flash in with the Renata inside his ultimate, was kind of what they needed to do. And I don't know, that because they took so long to pull the trigger on that is why it kind of seemed like the nerves were there. Because I feel like C9 normally would have probably gone for that a little earlier in the game. But yeah, you know, obviously a hard situation, and
I also think, to be fair, though, it's like the couple times that they did try to send it, like just barely didn't work out, right? Like twice, Blabber flashed to try to get in range, I felt like, of Cataclysm on Masu, and he was like a couple pixels away from getting in range and then just got kited out and died. So,
yeah, there was the one mid where he got like Gragas ulted back into the turret, which was pretty bad. So I get it. It was it's not easy when you're like everything is on you to try to find the engage, but I think generally the way you want to do it is just have like everybody go in together because I'm thinking about this game from Masu's perspective, right? You're playing Caitlyn and you don't have cleanse. He got a QSS near the end of the game, but for most of the game, no QSS, no cleanse, no help whatsoever. You have an Elise as your support. It's not like you have a Lulu or a Mikhail's or something. And you're up against like Jarvan with a Callista Renata. Like if they just flash in on you and send everything at you, it's going to be pretty hard to live. Like you're actually probably just going to die. And then, it doesn't necessarily mean C9 instantly wins the fight 'cause, you're full sending right next to a Victor. He's going to get a lot of return damage or whatnot. But I do think they probably had the tools to kill Masu. But it was, obviously it's easier said than done. There's a lot of traps and like zoning to get through.
Yeah. Especially because, and I kind of talked about this during the game, but like they're set up to siege and to poke so well because they also like spread out. So if you're gonna target that one, then you have the other two on the side with like Kha'Zix being super annoying with his poke, the Gragas barrels, slows coming through. Busio was constantly like dipping between Fog of War and these brushes, and threatening with the Elise, and so they it seemed like FlyQuest kind of took the positioning of like, all right, you could get one of us, but you can't get all of us with the engage. And so like, then even if you do make the engage, like someone gets popped. And we saw a couple times, even this Cassante, where I was like, oh my God, Cassante is gonna be just giga this game, because even when they blast cone 3 people on top of him and they had like 5 people hitting him forever, he still lived.
And
but then
both of Masu's summoners.
Yeah, but then by the end, FlyQuest were able to just like spread out, so he didn't even have someone close enough to him to be able to ult, and so they're kind of like keeping this like dangerous like bull at arm's length while range DPSing him. And so I thought it was cool, because throughout this series we saw so much combat. There was a lot of back and forth in the various games here, and we got to see a bunch of different styles being played too, with like some picks, some split push, some team fight, and I just had a really good time up until I ate that pepper.
And we had, to put it in perspective, how many kills there were. So there was 173 kills across the 5 games total between the two teams, right? Like Zven alone had 43 kills in this series. So pretty crazy. And there's always going to be so many moments you think of, but it is always tough, right? And I think that FlyQuest played their comps out, like especially that last comp that's so difficult to play, so well, because you have to be playing from these flanks. You have to be walking in. It wasn't even like, Inspired had Umbral Glaive or anything clear out vision. Like he's just having to play on these flanks and play really aggressively. Bwipo is as well without Zhonya's. Like the most common build right now for Gragas is like Roa and Winder's approach, right? Like you're at least pseudo tanky. He's just like full glass cannon AP, and they're having to play it out in that way. There's always going to be little things that you can think back on and like regret and try to change, but I think it's just so impressive to be able to kind of solve it in these moments, in these high pressure moments, to be able to find the ways to make that work. And it's like, you would think on paper these two comps, C9 should always win 5v5, but there was one fight up by Baron where it was like, Inspired just like ults in on top of Vulcan and puts him to like 30% HP instantly, and they're having to then be in the spot where you're under so much pressure where it's like you want to get your spells out before you die. You don't want to like miss a bailout on yourself. You want to be able to get hostile takeover out, but then it's in positions where you can't get as much guaranteed value. And I just think it's really, really cool to see that. Also, how crazy is it that we have the Winions end and then now this? And it's like we have had some nuts endings that FlyQuest has been a part of. And
too scared to win a team fight.
as much as I was sad that we kept having like 3-game series, all these best of 5s. We definitely did save the best for last. Back-to-back weekends, getting all full 5 was really, really cool.
Yeah, that was about as good of a finals as you could ever ask for, in my opinion. It was like we got to see so many different things. We got to see most players, had good and bad plays throughout the series. Like we saw Thanatos have an absolutely insane Ambessa game. We got to see like obviously a backdoor ending. And then I thought game 3 was super interesting because it was one of the biggest stomps you've ever seen. It was 14-0. It looked like FlyQuest was doing that thing in scrims where you ask for a remake, the other team says no, and you say, okay, we'll play it out. And they were just straight up throwing bodies. And then they actually started coming back. And I actually thought FlyQuest was going to win that game at one point.
I did too.
I was like, what is happening right now? Like, you're not supposed to be winning when you're getting stomped this hard. But, they won a few smite fights on the objectives to get their bounties, and like they got a few shutdowns. So,
and Smolder
that was really cool.
Giga scaling runes, like Conqueror and everything.
I didn't like the Conqueror, actually. I thought
that's fair. I
didn't get that. I feel like if you have fleet, you can like position a lot better in fights.
I think his thought process was, we're playing against Senna. The game is just going to go giga late, and then Conqueror is just like really powerful scaling as far as like you're getting self healing when it's fully stacked. You're getting getting the extra AD and everything, and it's like I think that was the thought process. Is just I'm going to have so much free AD and stuff late in the game that it's going to be this like slow game. But I did agree that if he had sustained, like it was interesting because he went for Zhonya's last item, and I don't think he could have afforded the full BT because I think he bought the Zhonya's literally after he died in the last fight. But it was like, I felt like if he had sustained, they maybe could have won some of those fights because he wasn't actually ever dying 100-0. He was getting chunked out, so maybe Fleet would have solved that issue as well. But it was always like Blabber would E to him and Q him and do 20% of his health. Like Zven would get like one rapid fire auto Q on him and he'd lose like 40% of his health, and then he'd just be low and he couldn't actually stay in the fight. So maybe Conqueror wasn't the play, but at least I liked the thought process of they're like, nothing is going to happen this bot lane at all. So we're going Conqueror TP and like Spellbook, and we're just going like full scaling, and we're going to like outscale what your Senna is going to do.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't, I'm not a big Smolder player myself, but it just seems weird. Like he doesn't stack it very quickly. In a team fight, most of Smolder's play pattern in a team fight is literally just like queuing people with rapid fire on cooldown, basically, right? And I feel like Fleet synergizes really well with that, right? Like lets you get that move speed to run away afterwards, or like reposition, follow up, whatever you need to do. So obviously it didn't work out, but I think Matsu probably knows a little bit more about Smolder than me. So there's probably a reason for it.
And actually, the thing that stuck out to me most when you were like, "Oh yeah," and Blabber, this was the Poppy game. Remember, would like E and Q onto him and do 20% of his health. You remember the one over Krugs?
Yeah.
Where he flashes over and he does 50%. And it's like Poppy is a burst champion. But I believe he was full tank build, right? What you have the build?
He went Sundered.
He had Sundered
in a tank.
Yeah.
But he had Dead Man's proc and Sundered.
But it's like it looks so good when you have just enough burst damage to get the kill.
Yep.
Because he wouldn't have much more left after that. But he full combos him and actually kills him and kills off the Smolder. And that was kind of like a critical kind of breaking point in the game. It was also the point where the Rise was actually super powerful, and Quad like chased Thanatos through the tower, so then he ended up on the other side, and like that was when Rise was one of the strongest champions in the game too. And so like, man, there was just so many crazy fights and so many things that are just like popping back up, kind of just like what Zven was talking about in his post-game interview, that you go over each one of these skirmishes and each one of these fights. And I am so happy that this is what we got from our top two teams multiple times.
Yep. Because
to me, it bodes well for the future of LTA North and for Split 3. I'm very excited to track FlyQuest at Vancouver as well at MSI, but it's definitely going to be some more best of fives in our future, I think, with these two.
I mean, LTA North gets two teams that are going to be sent to Worlds. Well, in theory, we get one, and they play against LTA South for the other spots.
We'll get two.
I think we're going to get two teams. I will say, I feel like everyone else has so much work to do to catch up to these two teams. Whether you're another LTA North team or you're an LTA South team, if you want to be able to steal away that extra slot from one of these teams, like they're just miles ahead of everyone right now. And it did feel like, even Blabber and Inspired were saying that it's like, it felt like a 2-team race, right? And I think we clearly saw that in the lower bracket finals when we saw, Cloud9 going up against Shopify. We haven't obviously touched on that yet, but like that did not feel close at all. And so I just feel like these two teams right now are so far ahead of the pack. and everyone else has a lot of catching up to do. If you want to be able to, challenge for a title in LTA North, if you want to be able to potentially go to Worlds, well, the bar has been set, and the bar has been set, I think, really, really high. So these are the two teams that everyone is going to have to be chasing now. And it's not like Cloud9 is going to be coming away from this finals thinking, oh, that was a great split, like happy how it went. Like they are going to be hungry, right? Because they lost finals, they miss MSI. So it's going to be tough, I think, for everyone else to try to catch up to these teams.
Yeah, absolutely. It always hurts when you lose like that. I guess the silver lining is, like you said, that you feel very motivated. It's like you have that very recent pain of coming so close but not getting it. And so, yeah, I think that's going to help them a lot going into next split. And honestly, making it to Worlds is kind of the goal for everyone, right? Like MSI is awesome, obviously. It's always nice to be able to go to those international tournaments and just get the experience. Because remember when Inspired was on here, he said he learned a lot from playing against those teams, like just learning how to be efficient. Because for me, I can watch Korean teams all day, but it's nothing compared to actually getting to play against them. Because you can see what they do, and you see them play each other, but you might not understand why they do a certain thing. Or it's like, why isn't this team doing that? So you play against them, you try this thing that you think would be better, and they punish you in some way you've never seen before. And it's like, oh, okay, because they can punish you this way, that takes that out of the equation. Like, you should never try this. And then, you can just learn so much that way that you never learn if you just watch other teams play. So, yeah, obviously the international experience is going to be huge. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how these other teams are going to catch up. It feels like C9 and FlyQuest are just so ahead.
I'm also really sad for Vulcan just on like a personal level, because it's like the first time ever there's been an international tournament in Canada, his home country and stuff, and you miss out by like that much. I feel like people are always a little bit more motivated to have that opportunity to get to play in a big venue. Obviously it's not in Quebec, it's not like home, but it's Canada, right? And so those opportunities are few and far between. And I do think it's going to be really cool for Masu to get that opportunity. We are going to get, the Inspired versus JoJo potentially, which I think is really, really cool because they're obviously really close. JoJo's Canadian, Masu's Canadian, so those are going to be the Canadian players representing there. And yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a really, really special event for them. I expect to see the Canadian fans definitely like really kind of, rallying behind them, because Canada definitely has a lot of pride in their players and in their country. So I think it's going to be extra special for them, but obviously going to be sad if you're Vulcan and you're watching that from home and kind of like seeing the love that other Canadian players are getting. Because like, I know personally, like when I've gotten to go to Canada and cast at these events, even just doing that, like the amount of extra love and attention you get from the fans is just like nothing. Those are my favorite esports memories, are these events I've gotten to do in Canada.
Yeah, I guess the silver lining for NA teams is that because MSI is going to be in Vancouver, all those pros are coming here, and you might find them in solo queue. But I don't know how much solo queue the teams are going to play, because I know that I think from Vancouver on NA it's going to be like 60 plus ping. And like I know that Eastern players do not like playing on 60 ping, and so I don't know how much they'll play. But
plus also, especially as the tournament goes on and it gets whittled down, they're always looking for teams to scrim.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Could even get super duper good experience if you like offer your entire team actually stays and they're like in practice mode to be able to scrim Gen G like that. That is something. That's some like experience you're talking about like. You can watch someone get their ass beat and learn a little bit from it, but if you actually get your ass beat, then you can learn a lot from it. Like that's some experience. If you actually get some
if I was playing right now,
it's like you could eat a pepper, watch someone eat a pepper, and you could learn that it could be painful. Or
I am never eating. What are those called?
Hungry?
What are those?
Hungry?
It's a pepper X.
Away from me. That was actually insane.
Carolina Reaper, I think.
I was impressed that you guys weren't like going as insane as me. I don't know
even
if
drink milk. I stayed strong.
I think maybe I bit more seeds. The seed, like
mine had like way more seeds.
Yeah. Mine was like way harder.
Yeah, for sure.
I bit every seed.
I do like spicy food, so but not that hot, and not eating like a whole pepper with all the seeds. But I will say,
wait, you still got some left over. You didn't.
I will say that. The worst part for me was not my tongue or anything. It's just that the heat, like some of the seeds got stuck in my throat, and I started feeling the burn down my throat. That was crazy. Speaking of scrims, though, I know I interviewed Vulcan and Palafox before their match, lower bracket finals on Saturday, and they were talking about scrims. And Palafox was saying how it was really hard for them to find scrims, going up into the final week, which is really common because generally as teams get eliminated, they go take a break. And so he was saying that they were scrimming like tier 2 teams and stuff like that, and that was really tough. And I know that Cloud9 was saying they were scrimming against TL, but it wasn't like TL's full roster. Some players were missing and stuff. So
5v3 or what?
No, like they had, I think it was like they had probably tier 2 subs
feel- yeah,
or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
It's like the McDonald's team type stuff, right? Where people are trying to cobble together teams to practice against when not everyone is there. And so it'll be interesting to see how they prepare. I do assume that FlyQuest is going to be looking for scrim partners in these coming weeks, but MSI is really, really soon, right? Like we leave in
25th.
Yeah, exactly. We leave in like 10 days. So I'm sure the teams are going to be going even earlier, right? I assume that they're going to be going at least like a week in advance. So they're going to be leaving, next weekend or maybe even before that. Because I think the games start not this coming Friday, but the Friday after that, if I have it correct in my head.
I'm just thinking about it. I feel like what you said, Kobe, about getting to scrim those top teams at MSI, that would act, if I was in like LTA team right now, that would be my number one goal. It's just
go to Vancouver and scrim.
Yeah,
Or
I mean,
scrim from
you
here?
could probably even scrim from here, and
Yeah.
the ping would be fine, playable. But it would just be, don't go on break, just keep practicing, because the hardest thing is like when these top teams come over, like you over there, sometimes they'll play you just to try you out. But if you suck, like they will not play you much more. Like they might cancel after one game if you're embarrassingly bad. But if you can actually play well and prove to them that you're worth their time, that can be the most insane opportunity for you. And so that's what I would do. I would just be like, that was probably the number one thing I would get upset at my teammates for, would be like not taking scrim seriously, because
You're losing out.
yeah, if the other team decides you're not worth their time and they're not going to scrim you, then like you're only hurting yourself, because you won't learn as much when you like. Imagine you're a mid laner and you get to lane against Chovy, right? It's like,
It's a rare opportunity.
damn, that would actually be unreal. You have to learn something from him.
Plus,
so.
they do get a break after MSI ends. There's a week, a down week, and then the following week we start LTA back up. So,
Dude, how much of a break do you need?
how much
man?
of a
Like,
break do you really need?
We're in season, dude. Like this isn't you're a pro player. This isn't like a clock in, clock out job. This should be all day, every day kind of thing.
And
if you really need a break, then like I don't know if you're in the right line of work.
Also, for a lot of the teams, to be honest, a lot of the teams went on break once they got eliminated in playoffs. So they probably have had a little break, and I do think screaming during MSI is going to be way more valuable. And there's very little time, because there's one weekend off before MSI after our finals, and then there was one weekend off after MSI, and then the split starts again.
Yeah.
So it's like
I don't think you should be taking a break.
Yeah, I mean, especially like we just established, FlyQuest and C9 are way ahead of the rest of the league. It's everyone else's job to catch up, and it's their job to stay ahead. So I do think these teams are going to have to be working hard.
You know what I want to see? I want to see G2 scrim against Shopify, and Contracts and Palafox call them up, and they're like, "Hey guys, remember us?
Yeah, why not?
Can we get some scrims?" I definitely, that'll.
I mean, dude, I actually think that's a really valuable thing to do, because I've had those experiences in international tournaments. Like, toward the end of it, nobody's playing. The only people that are playing are your competitors. So it's like you have to play against tier 2, tier 3 teams just to stay warm in some way, shape, or form. But if somebody can prove to you that they're a good practice partner and like you'll benefit from it, then they'll keep playing you.
And speaking of these teams trying to catch up, a couple roster announcements, obviously, that have happened. If you haven't watched the TL Umti video, you definitely should.
Oh man,
I think
I was tearing up. Like, you definitely should watch that video, because it is. I as far as the ones that I have watched and I can remember, that is the best exit video that I've ever seen from an organization / player. Very heartfelt from Umti, as well as all of the coaching staff and everyone involved.
I mean, I really liked that they put it out. It was so honest. It's really showing, the impact of mental health and how much goes into it. And it's like, like you're talking about, Medias, you can't really afford to take a break as a programmer. If you're trying to be the literal best at something, I've said this before, but it is it's inherently unhealthy, right? Like it is something that you are doing where you cannot have balance, because if someone else can practice 16 hours a day and not get burned out, guess what? They have a big advantage. So if your goal is to be the literal best at something, it's always going to be somewhat of an unhealthy pursuit. Like that's just the nature of the job. And so people need to also know their limits, right? And if it is too much, if it is really hurting you as a person, if it's too stressful, if it's too much, then you have to be able to realize that and take a step back and protect who you are and protect yourself and your own mental health. And so definitely a lot of respect for TL and for how they have seemed to handle it. The line I think that really hit me hard, and probably that hit you hard, and I think a lot of people that watched it, was Umti talking about how his conversation with Spawn and talking to him as a coach and saying, from a coach perspective, you're not playing well enough, like this, and this. But from, like a friend or an uncle perspective, it's, talking about it like, if I was your father and, and you called me as like a child, I would tell you to sever your relationship with this game immediately. Like he was saying that it was clearly, it was too much. If one of my children were this distraught, I would tell you to like, it's done, like come home, And Spawn, has 2 kids, and obviously, he was saying he's a father first, and he was looking at it from that perspective and just seeing like how much Umti as a person was hurting. And it's like at the end of the day, yes, it is a serious pursuit, but it's not worth it, if it's going to hurt you in that way. And so I thought that was such an incredible way for Spawn to handle that, and for him to be able to both give the kind of like honest and harsh feedback of like, hey, as a player, you're not cutting it. Like that's me as a coach, and now as a person, like this isn't working for you. You need to be able to like take care of yourself, protect yourself, and clearly it was a really meaningful relationship for Umti and Spawn and the other Team Liquid members as well. Just the idea that it's like they were caring about him a lot as a person and prioritizing that over their success as a team and over his success as a player, which I think is how you should do it.
And they talked about how this stuff was all on everyone's radar at the beginning of the year when they initially re-signed Umti. And they were talking to him. And at that time, they said Umti did have concerns about rejoining the team. But, it was through talking to Dodo and the managers about, hey, we're gonna be able to have these sorts of stress relief programs, and we're gonna have someone to work with you, and all of these insurances to like make it work and make something happen here. So they they discussed it and have had it on their radar, and I feel like now we know the reason why they didn't sub Umti back in once they had started using UG, I guess.
Yeah, and it is, pretty interesting because I think that whole point about like you can't have a good work-life balance is somewhat true, because throughout the entirety of the time I played pro and, I've seen other people play pro, the winning teams are usually the ones that are just putting in the most time. But at the same time, I don't think it's something you can force. Like you were saying, I think burnout is a real thing, and you do need to take care of your mental health. So I know that for me, like in the early C9 days, everyone on our team was just so bought into it. Like no one had to tell us, hey, you should probably be queuing 14 hours a day. It was just like, that's just what we did. Like we didn't think about it. We didn't think of ourselves as hard workers. We didn't think it's like, oh man, like I'm going in the extra mile right now. Like this is so tough. I'm going to power through. It was just like, no, like we just did it. Like that's just, we're pro players. We want to be good. That's what we do. So I think it's hard if you don't have that passion, because I remember seeing some like, it's like a chess analogy, but I think it was like a short that popped up for me. And it was talking about how like Magnus Carlsen and other chess players, they just really love the game, and having fun with it to the point where you want to be doing it all the time, I think is more important than any kind of like talent you're born with or how much you put into it. Because if you're not having fun, if you're not enjoying it, then you're not going to be able to do it for the amount that you need to. And so it is kind of the truth. It's like, I feel for Umti for sure. Going through like tough periods where it's like damaging your mental health, that sucks hard. I kind of agree. Like, I don't think it's something you should be doing if you're feeling that way. And there is a lot of stress of being a pro player, but it's just tough because you kind of need to be able to keep playing all the time and not burn out like that if you want to stay at like the top level. So it's tough for sure. And I think that's why a lot of players don't end up playing for that long, because it is pretty taxing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've said this before, I'll say this again. To me, it's like age is not what is stopping people from doing it. It's not like your hands don't work anymore. By the time you hit 25 or 30 or whatever, that it is very hard and takes a tremendous amount of discipline to keep it up. And people, get interest in other things and they want more things going on in their life. And then it's like, well, if Meteos is going to practice 14 hours a day, I'm not going to be able to keep up at 6 hours a day. That's just like the reality. It is generally in that way. Of course, there is like efficiency of practice. There's other complicated things to it. But the advantage is, if you can play more and if you stay, motivated, then that is going to be really helpful to you. It's also, to talk back on Shopify a little bit, one of the reasons why sometimes these coaches, people I think kind of meme on it sometimes, but like DeMonte was getting so much credit for being, this like really good like mood maker for the team and people that, is just bringing such a positive vibe and helping the players with like whether it's like a massage or making them laugh or, like individual help or just hanging out with them and all these different things. And so many players, I feel like on their team, we're giving him so much credit because they just felt like he made it a fun atmosphere and was able to keep the mood high, whether they're winning or losing. And, you talked about your feeling on C9. I feel like C9 is one of the things that people look back on that old C9 roster as like just like such a fun group. And like, you guys were always joking and it always just seemed like it was kind of just like a group of friends who were playing and kind of had that vibe. And I think that is such an advantage, right? And something that can be underestimated is like when the atmosphere is really bad, it's going to be hard to like push through 10 hours of practice or scrimming all day and then talking to the person and doing reviews and doing all these things. But when you have people who can like, not saying you can joke all the time, but like who can make you laugh and relieve the tension at times and stuff, it helps a lot.
Definitely. You mentioned C9, and one thing that I think people kind of know about it, but for me, I've always seen Jack as kind of like one of the pinnacle parts of like what makes C9 good for so long is because C9's the only team I've been on where, it feels like the owner really, really cares about the players. Like Jack genuinely cares. He's the kind of guy who's like, if you have a problem with the team, whatever, you can go to him and like, he'll never make you feel pressured. He'll never make it feel like, your job's on the line. He's just like, he looks after everybody. He makes sure everyone's okay. Like he shows up to practice a lot just to like, be part of it.
I feel like he's also at the studio, literally 100% of weeks. I don't know if I've ever seen him not be here at a game.
Yeah, it's crazy. And like you were mentioning, having good vibes.
Remember.
Yeah, I think he's huge for the vibes. Like he just makes it feel like you're a family and like a team and everyone's looking after each other. So I think that, honestly, at least from my perspective, has been a huge part of the success of that team.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Another big change, it just got, I don't know if it's officially confirmed, but got leaked, got announced, whatever you want to call it, that Photon would be replacing Surdy, which obviously feels pretty bad for people who are kind of, a fan of like the NA talent pipeline and all this. And, when Dignitas picked up Surdy, I had heard that Surdy had a choice between a number of different teams and specifically, chose Dignitas because of, the belief he had in the organization and that, it was supposed to be this thing that was kind of like being built long term and that it was going to be, this kind of idea. And I remember even Dignitas's GM, I think, tweeting out, how Surdy was going to be, like a core piece of the thing for years to come and like all this kind of stuff. And so it definitely feels bad to see him already being like replaced. Photon I do think is good. So I do think it's like the other side of the coin is at the end of the day, your job as like a Dignitas GM, coach, whatever, is to win the most games you can and kind of do that. And so this obviously is going to be, I think, their idea of how to do that, of how to win more games. And I do think Photon is quite good, but definitely feels bad for Surdy. There was a lot of excitement around him coming in. And at the end of the day, yes, I don't think he performed very well on stage, but it is also really hard when you're on a team that is struggling. Like there's so many things that can go into that. It's just like, it feels a little bit sad. I feel like anytime you see like a rookie come in on a bad team, they do bad, and then they're just kind of gone because it's really hard. I mean, Surdy even talked about this. I think literally in our playoff promo, he was talking about like he's playing for his future because, if you come in and you do bad, you often don't get another chance. And then it's like, well.
And Surdy also, he was very open in the interviews afterwards. He was talking about how much he was working. We just had this whole discussion, about Umti and about burnout and everything. And Surdy was talking about practicing so much that he did not get 8 hours of sleep even. and was on like 6 hours of sleep because all of the rest of the hours of the day were practice. And you could tell too in looking at when he's delivering these interviews, and he was just such he is, excuse me, one of these massive grinders. So I do hope that he does get another chance, because he has very clearly demonstrated that he will put in all of the work necessary. Not only is it this maximum practice, but even before getting in, like he did everything that he like possibly could to get picked up. And I feel like he has had a good attitude in transitioning from solo queue to pro play as well. So yeah, it definitely. I was definitely sad to hear that. Photon, by the way, has been playing in the TCL on Besiktas. Last year, of course, in 2024, he was on Vitality in LEC. But yeah, definitely going to be one of the ones missing 30.
Yeah, man, it's tough because he pretty much did everything right as far as getting into the league, right? Like he got highest rating ever in solo queue. He was winning tier 2. And then it's hard because I think it's pretty rare. I'm trying to think of a time where a rookie came into a lower tier team and was actually able to do well and stand out or whatnot. And so I think it's just kind of, I wouldn't say dead on arrival, like doomed or anything, but it's really hard. It's close to that because, you know, obviously if you're not on a successful team, you're probably not going to win that much. And your team might not even know how to correctly address the problems that you're having, right? It's like, I think outside of the top 2 teams, like obviously these teams don't understand the game as well, so maybe they won't be able to help you with problems you're having, as opposed to when you come into a team like, you know, Fudge joining C9, for example, I feel like it's a somewhat recent rookie story. I guess it's not that recent anymore, but you know, he didn't have the best debut when he first started, but because he's playing with such a good team, they're able to like help build him up into like what a top laner needs to do, and he got really good. So yeah, it's tough, but you know, that's how it goes sometimes as a pro. And I hope he keeps trying, you know, like plays tier 2, maybe gets another opportunity, because yeah, it sucks, but I don't know what else you can do.
Yep, got to keep on trying. Yeah, I think that's all the roster changes, though.
Yep, that I've heard of so far. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if more stuff is coming. You know, definitely, especially for DSG and stuff, right? Where there's that kind of the expectation that a lot of changes could be potentially coming, because the reality is for DSG, at the end of the next split, they're going to have to play promo relegation to keep their spot, right? And there's a number of NACL teams that look like they're probably better than DSG right now. So I wouldn't be shocked to see more potential changes coming as teams, I think, are feeling the pressure of trying to improve for next split. But it's always hard to make, you know, effective changes in between splits like this, because most players aren't going to be available, right? We are going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back right after this.
Ready, set, go!
I'm at 47%.
Oh, I'm on 63%.
Man, I'm at 50%. Boom! 80%. Winner! The Kia EV9 can go from 10% charge to 80% charge in just 24 minutes with DC fast charging.
Welcome back to the dive driven by Kia. MSI, though, as we said, is around the corner. All the teams now have qualified, I do believe. So it is going to be pretty exciting. It is going to start with the play-in stage. Play-in stage is going to be, you know, the second seed from each of the kind of 4 regions here. So we have second seed from China, except for obviously Korea. Both of them will start because they won first stand. I think it was associated with that. Correct me if I'm wrong. But so Bilibili, BLG is going to be starting in play-ins. G2, Furia as the LTA South #1 seed, and then GAM as well. And then, of course, the teams that are going to be already waiting qualified for the bracket stage is going to be Gen G, T1, Anyone's Legend, Movistar Koi, FlyQuest, and Flying Oyster. So it's going to be, I think, a pretty crazy tournament. I will say I was really surprised that T1 won. And not only did they win, they 3-0'd. I thought HLE was going to clap them. I'm not going to lie. But it turns out that Doran is Zayas' father. And
that's so crazy. This was... I don't know how Faker keeps getting away with this. He's just, he has the most insane.
He's the GOAT.
He's the most insane story writer. It's just like,
The plot armor is insane.
I know they just did the trade and they're getting smashed by HLE, and it's just like, wow, Zeus carried them. They're nothing without Zeus.
But I'd win.
Yeah, and then I don't know, when it matters, it's just like, all right, now Doran's all of a sudden just smashing him. It's so sick. I love it.
And all the drama of the Smash and Guma Yushi stuff over the year. He was like, you know what? That top lane story, that's not enough for my movie. I'm going to throw in a bottom lane story. We're going to do a little switcheroo. Smash's going to play for a while. Guma's going to play for a while.
It's so crazy.
Owner the whole time is going to be a massive jungle carry turbo smurf. But yeah, I mean, the entire MSI is going to be so hype. I will say LCK looks really good. So usually I'm like, oh yeah, LPL is like right up in there. I feel like LCK, is gonna be definitely like head and shoulders above for me. But I always root for underdogs, and I always like to be surprised and delighted.
The LPL underdogs.
Well,
to Korea,
I kind of think they are right now.
Okay.
And I will also say though, because it is T1 that won, not saying they don't deserve to win. They obviously stomped HLE. You know, congrats, they deserve it. But there is more stuff. There's like more tape to look at where it's like, okay, these were their problems, right? There was more struggles that they had, way more struggles that they had during the regular season. That things that you can point to where you can be like, okay, you know, if this starts happening, or if you're able to exploit them in this way or that way, there's gonna be more like avenues of attack. It feels like HLE obviously has to be so heartbreaking for them though, because they're up 2-0. And I guess it's not the finals because they weren't technically playoffs, but whatever you want to say, like the first MSI qualifier match. And then they get reverse swept, and then they go 0-3 to T1. So, like, that is heartbreaking. But, yeah, I mean, Gen G, obviously looking like monsters. T1, if they play like they did against HLE, are going to be insanely hard to beat. I do really think it's cool that Anyone's Legend won. Shout out to Tarzan. Tarzan, I think, was like maybe, like, it's obviously arguable, but like maybe the best player to have never won anything. Like, he had never won any regional title as far as I know. So it's really cool that he finally did that. And also Tabe, really cool, like how he just seems to be, wherever he goes, he just kind of wins. Like, he's been bouncing around between all these different teams. He keeps winning titles.
The Chinese Demonte.
There you go.
I mean, he always has so much energy. I love when he's at events because he is on stage. You say bouncing, he literally bounces. You know, like he was the one that went to go congratulate the opponent team on accident because like he ran to the opposite side of the stage on accident. You know, he was the one where way back when like we had him on analyst test and he's just saying all these draft priorities and stuff live on air, and like he is so into League of Legends.
Yep.
And I feel like he has really good energy.
He gave me a shout out back in the day.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. There you go.
There you go.
BLG obviously qualifying as a second seed. I do think BLG though is definitely not looking like the powerhouse that they have over the last couple of years. So it'll be interesting to see how they actually perform. I think a lot of LPL fans were happy that Top didn't go because Top has this kind of like international choker reputation.
I mean, first band was pretty recent.
Yeah, exactly. But Bin does not look like the Bin that I remember in all the games I've been watching from him. I feel like the team has not looked nearly as dominant. So it'll be interesting to see how they perform. Obviously, we touched a little bit on EU, but like Movistar Koi, they qualified. That's really cool. Personally, was kind of cheering for them from EU because, you know, JoJo obviously is going to be there. And so we get G2, so that's exciting. It should be a lot of fun.
The oysters as well. I mean, I don't know about you if you're as happy to see the oysters back. I thought the oysters.
No, because they beat our ass. I'm not happy to see
I would have rather not seen them.
Yeah.
I still think that team was really fun. Like Driver, like the top lane switch is funny
all
in
the
itself.
Dances and
but
stuff.
then Driver just straight up
He's the
dances
goat.
at everyone.
He's the goat.
Then
Are
they're
they
like,
still doing their 6-man thing?
yeah. And they're
Wow.
doing it well though and super successful. And then they were also like pulling up their shirts and like showing their muscles,
His abs and stuff. He was showing his
afterwards.
6-pack after they
I was
won.
like, holy.
Yeah.
But them, Gam as well. So
Yeah, Gam being back is always really fun. Levi still with the squad, so
Yeah,
like
Kiaya.
Levi and Kiaya and stuff. I think it is really, really hype. Furia just won, and if you are an LCS, LTA North fan, ThinkCard is their coach. So
Really?
I didn't know that is really cool. I heard that he had trouble. He couldn't actually be on stage though. He tweeted out that there was some sort of like issue with like a change in laws or something. So he couldn't actually. He got blocked from flying back in. So he had to remote coach. So he didn't actually get to coach on stage for the finals, which is obviously a pretty big bummer. But he's going to be there. So that's pretty cool. And we have 2 JoJos because we got JoJo support and we got JoJo PN mid. So it's going to be the battle of the JoJos potentially. If well, I guess Fury would have to make it through play-ins, but it should be a really fun tournament. I'm looking forward to it. It is coming up very, very soon, and yeah, it's gonna be hype.
Yeah, I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that in our next episode that we are going to film just before we fly out. But for this episode, I think that about wraps it up. This is going to be a pretty short one.
Yep, that's going to be about it for this episode of The Dive, driven by Kia. Like Kobe said, we're going to be back again before we actually fly off, so we're going to have another episode next week. And then we're going to be doing some episodes from MSI. Medios will be here, but I think you might even be going to MSI at some point as well.
Yeah, I'm going to be at MSI for the end of it, but I
Nice.
don't know if I'll be there for our dive episode.
But that'll be fun. Maybe you can meet Medios live and in person in Vancouver.
Yeah, maybe I can meet you guys live in person.
You could. Well, we could pencil that out.
Talk to my...
He could meet me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that's good.
yeah, exactly. It should be a lot of fun. But yeah, that is going to wrap it up for us here at The Dive, driven by Kia. Also for LTA North Split 2. That's a wrap. Congrats to FlyQuest, our deserving champions. We're sending them off to go conquer Gen G. You know, they went 5 games last time, so this time they're going 6. They're going 1 more.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good strat.
There you
I'm
go.
never eating a pepper ever again in my life.
That was truly horrible. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode of The Dive. You can check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere else. I hope the audio was not too horrible at the start of this episode because kind of none of us were able to talk, but we will see you soon. Until next time.